day in Santa Cruz. It is Tuesday, January 13th, 2026, the second Tuesday of the year. Once again, it's my pleasure to welcome you to At the Table with Crucian Educator. This is a 1 hour radio talk show on the number one radio station in the Caribbean, WSTX 970 AM on your radio dial, or perhaps you're listening to it through Facebook on the WSTX Facebook page or on my Facebook page. This is yours truly, Verdell Peterson, the host of this 1 hour radio talk show. It is a talk show, but I am anticipating a guest today. However, you are welcome to call in and join the conversation if you wish to respond to any of the three questions that I post. I usually have three prepared questions for discussion at the table. And I am going to be talking a lot about the historical and cultural affairs of the U.S. Virgin Islands. Therefore, let me make sure you know the numbers to call in. If you're interested in calling in, everybody's welcome. The numbers are 340-773-0390 and 773-0490. Area code 340-773-0490 or 773-0390. The topics today relate to our history, vibrant culture, and intriguing heritage of the U.S. Virgin Islands that I called American Caribbean Gems. Therefore, I'd like to read to you a message from the Commissioner of Tourism nominee, Jennifer Matarangas King. This is from St. Croix this week. It's very informative. It talks a lot about the history and the culture and all the social events taking place in St. Croix for the week. So I am going to read to you the message. She has not yet been confirmed, but that should be anytime soon. I'm not sure of the date, but here is a message from the nominee for Commissioner of Tourism. Welcome to St. Croix, the largest of the U.S. Virgin Islands, spanning 84 square miles of stunning beaches, lush hillsides, tropical rainforests, and breathtaking vistas. And I have to agree with that. Steeped in history, our island's twin towns of Christiansted and Frederiksted invite you to step back in time at landmarks like Fort Christiansborg and Fort Frederick, monument to the diverse cultural tapestry that define both St. Croix and the entire territory. Whether you are drawn to charming boutique hotels, luscious resorts, or intimate bed and breakfast, you'll be embraced by the warmth and hospitality of the Crucian people, who embody our signature vibe like no other. That's our signature vibe like no other. Recently named the Caribbean's top culinary hotspot by Caribbean Journal, St. Croix often flavors shaped by offers flavor shaped by global influences from Caribbean and Amerindian to Spanish, Dutch, French, and African. not African, I mean, and American, but I guess African should be in there too. Definitely, our dishes are influenced by our African heritage. For adventurers, the island is a playground. It's my playground too, definitely. Hike through rainforests, kayak along mangroves, ride horsebacks on the beach, set sail on the turquoise waters, tee off at scenic courses, or dive beneath the waves. With world-class snorkeling and scuba diving, including Buck Island, the only natural occurring underwater national monument in the U.S. Virgin Islands. You can even experience 5 unique dives in a single day. Let me mention that again, including Buck Island, the only naturally occurring underwater national monument in the US. You heard that? The only underwater national monument in the US. So St. Croix is unique. We have a lot of only, no other place that you can find. And there's so much more that can be mentioned. But let me go ahead. What she has to say, our nominee. St. Croix comes alive year-round with vibrant celebration. So true. From our month-long Crucian Christmas Festival, complete with dazzling boat parade and Crucian Christmas Festival, to a calendar filled with cultural fairs and community events. On behalf of the Department of Tourism, we welcome you to explore, savor, and celebrate with us. May your time on St. Croix be unforgettable, and we look forward to your return. And that's by Jennifer Matarangas King, Commissioner Nominee, Department of Tourism. And so my topics today relate to the cultural, historical, and social affairs of the U.S. Virgin Islands. I am anticipating a guest, but I don't know what time the guest will get here. So I'm just going to give the 3 questions that I have prepared for today's show. And here they are. The first question: as a private citizen and an entrepreneur, business owner, public official, or government employee, I'm throwing this out to anybody who fit those description. What would you consider your contribution to our rich history, vibrant culture, and intriguing heritage of the U.S. Virgin Islands? Everybody serves a purpose. So if you're here, a private citizen, in whatever capacity you are residing here on the territory, particularly Santa Cruz, which is the name for the island that the original inhabitants of St. Croix call I. What are you doing to contribute to our history, our culture, and heritage. Because history goes on. Everything that happens today becomes history tomorrow. And if we are fortunate to be here tomorrow, we can reflect on the histories of the past. History is a record of all events. Well, not everything is documented, but it's a record of past events that have significance to a particular community. Here in the US Virgin Islands, we are particularly interested in our own history, learning about ourselves, how it all began, how we got here. We're tracing our ancestry, our lineage, so that we can promote Virgin Islands pride, which is important. You should be proud of your history, your culture, and your heritage. I am very proud. I'm a very proud Crucian. A Crucian is a person born on the island of St. Croix. The original inhabitants or the indigenous people of this island called it I. They were here before we came, and I believe we should know something about their culture. So where I begin to tell the story of our history, Virgin Islands history, my starting point is when Christopher Columbus arrived on November 14, 1493. When Columbus came, it was not an intentional visit. He just happened to land at Salt River, and that site is named in his honor, Columbus Landing. He encountered people living here. These people we came to know as two groups, the Arawaks or the Tainos and the Caribs. So we should know a little bit about their culture and how they lived during that time centuries ago. So that's my starting point. So what are you doing to continue our history, to make it richer, more intriguing, to embrace diversity, because we have people come here from all over, and some have, by choice, made the US Virgin Islands their home. What are your contributions? You're welcome to call in if you wish to respond to that question, number one. Question number two. I want to elaborate on an initiative that I have. I'm calling it the Shanti Project. What that is, I would like for every Shanti in the US Virgin Islands to be named after a native Virgin Islander. I don't know how many Shantis we have on each island. St. Croix, the largest, at 84 square miles. St. Thomas, second largest, at 32 square miles. And St. John, third largest, at 21 square miles. However, I will assume St. Croix has the most. And I have been noticing them. And I came up with this idea because I'm like, none of the Shantis are named. And if you reflect on Danish colonial era, the wells, and some of them still are existing today, that you can go and actually capture a piece of history, one in particular. Go to the Watergut complex, which is named after a senator, the Ruby M. Rouse complex, and you will find a well. Well were used then to get fresh water, where you had the inhabitants then living on St. Croix in what was then known as the Danish West Indies would go to these wells to get water. And there's another one too at the Times Square, across from St. Croix Foundation, where the old theater is, Alexander Theater. Go there. You get a piece of history right there. The well is there. Well, I was inspired when I studied the history about these wells, and it was not just a place to collect water, but a social hub, a chance where people came together, the inhabitants, because as you may know, the U.S. Virgin Islands did not obtain U.S. citizenship was not granted to the inhabitants until 1927. During the time, the Danish West Indies was ruled by Denmark. You had the African enslaved, and later on they were freed. However, it was still a colony, a Danish colony, and the African enslaved descendants were not ever granted citizenship by Denmark. And even when the transfer of sovereignty from Denmark to the United States occurred on March 31st, 1917, those inhabitants did not have any citizen status. They were inhabitants just occupying the islands. The Danish citizens had an option at the time of the transfer to remain living here and to own their properties, or relinquish their Danish citizenship and still keep their properties. However, the majority of the population was African descendants, and they had no citizenship. They were Danish subjects until they became United States subjects in 1917. Therefore, as I mentioned earlier, we have so much history to be told, to share. I have an appreciation for this rich history and the vibrant culture. And I want that to be highlighted. Yes. I want that to be highlighted and to give a particular distinction to Native Virgin Islanders, to recognize their contribution. Not to say that all of us residing here that call the U.S. Virgin Islands home doesn't contribute to our history, doesn't make contribution to our economy if you're currently living here. In my book, if you choose to reside in the U.S. Virgin Islands and make it your domicile, you're a Virgin Islander. However, I would like to distinguish, to give special privilege to Native Virgin Islander. But we all are here living under the US flag, and we are equal under the US flag. Whether you are natural born US citizen or a naturalized US citizen, you are equal under the law as a legal resident and as this place as your domicile, and we all should be treated as such. However, I do think there should be a distinction to pay some tribute to Native Virgin Islanders. And that's why I came up with the Shanti Project, and to have these shanties not just as a bus stop, more than a bus stop, a social hub, just like the wells of the Danish colonial era. An opportunity for people to gather, exchange ideas, to relax, to read. Every shanty should have access to the internet. They should have a solar panel. Have you seen the one across from Central High? It is beautiful. I noticed it yesterday. I was astonished. I'm impressed. The shanty across from Central High School going down and the Queen Mary Highway has been upgraded. It has a large solar panel. I hope that it's not vandalized, because other shanties I noticed have been vandalized. The one I noticed vandalized, and so I don't know if it's getting solar light. It seemed like it was vandalized. It's the one, the corner across from Moore's service station in Estate Glen. I try to be as observant, and so I think every shanty should be under guardianship. They should be designated and be placed on a shanty map. This shanty map could tell us the location of each shanty and nearby estates, and routes, of course, and the name of the shanty. We have maps already of St. Croix and each of the other island that would show you location of historic sites as well as businesses. But I want this one to focus on farms. I want the farms to be identified. And this, because I'm not sure if I see on the regular map if they have a map. I would look at it later on if they actually show you the farms. But I'm intrigued by the farms, particularly those and St. Croix. Is I like to go and tours, walking tours, self-conducted walking tours. And I'm just intrigued by the different farms that I see along my route, my regular walking route. So I like those farms identified, because I noticed one thing too, we have a problem with signage. There's always room for improvement. I believe there should be more signs identifying the sites. Lots of farms, I don't see the name of the farms. I have no clue. What's the name of the farm? I know that it's a farm. The only one that I see a clear indication of is Seja Farm, which is located on Casper Holstein Road, which intersects with the Midland Road. So, and also with the Shanti Project, I like for the official symbols to be displayed. 6 symbols. The bird, the official bird of the U.S. Virgin Islands. The dish, there is a dish, the official dish, fabric, flower, flag, and last but not least, my favorite, music. The official music of the U.S. Virgin Islands, that those symbols should be displayed at every shanty. And of course, a short biography of the person the shanty is named after. And I believe in gender equality. So as much as possible, half of the shanty should be named after a female Native Virgin Islander and half of the male Native Virgin Islander. So we get to highlight ordinary people on the islands who you may not ordinarily have heard about, because I want the process to be through a democratic process, through nomination. Ordinary folks, not public figures necessarily, because you have a lot of structures in the territory. I want the shanty exclusively for those who are not necessarily public figures or elected officials. We have highways named after governors. We have, well, just one highway as far as I know, right? Melvin H. Evans Highways, it's named after the first elected governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands. We have hospitals. Juan Louis Hospital is not named after a Crucian. Juan Louis was born in Puerto Rico, but he was elected governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands. We're under the U.S. flag, as I mentioned. A violation of the 14th Amendment would not be acceptable to Congress, which is going to bring me to my third question. But I will elaborate more on this Shanti project because I get excited every time I talk about it. I get even more ideas, but I'd like to hear the input of others. I think I've even a competition, the best design Shanti. So that's question number 2. What are your thoughts about this Shanti project? And question number 3. Currently, the U.S. Virgin Islands is being governed by a document, a federal document known as the Revised Organic Act of 1954. This document replaced what we had earlier, which was the Organic Act of 1936. As I said, sovereignty was transferred from Danish to the United States. In 1917, U.S. citizenship was granted to the inhabitants in 1927, inhabitants of the 3 islands that was once part of the Danish West Indies, St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John. Persons born in the U.S. Virgin Islands are natural-born U.S. citizens. We are under the U.S. flag. The United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land because this is an unincorporated territory as indicated in the Revised Organic Act of 1954. We don't have our own sovereignty. Our nationality is United States. Look at your passport, your U.S. passport, you will see nationality. Our population is made up of people of various ethnicity. We embrace diversity here. It doesn't matter what your color, your culture, your creed. If you decide to make the U.S. Virgin Islands your domicile, you will be under the jurisdiction of the United States and be governed by the Revised Organic Act of 1954, our de facto constitution, until it's replaced, which I would like to happen. But since 54, that's what we've been governed by. It's an official document, it's a legal document. However, the US Congress has authorized the Virgin Islands legislature to establish constitutional conventions. And one was established. It's legal. It's by the law, by the authority of the Virgin Islands legislature, as well as by the US Congress. Constitutional conventions are established. And there is a sixth constitutional convention that is tasked with drafting a constitution for the US Virgin Islands. But that constitutional draft must be approved by Congress, since we're not an independent island nation. And I'm not saying we're a colony. I stopped saying we're a colony because there's a distinction between a colony and a territory. We have citizenship. We are Americans. And in my opinion, we should be seeking all the rights afforded to other Americans residing in the United States, in one of the 50 states. But because of our political status, we don't have the same political rights. We don't vote for the President of the United States. We don't vote for a voting member of Congress. We do vote for a delegate to Congress. But that position only allows for introduction of bills. It does not allow for the delegate to vote in Congress, to vote on laws, because Congress enacts laws. And one law that Congress enacted was Public Law 94-584, which authorizes us to have to draft our own constitution. But that constitution must be consistent with federal laws, with the US Constitution. So we just can't just stick anything in there, because it's up to the US Congress to approve that draft. So my question is this: what amendments to the Revised Organic Act of 1954 would you like to see reflected in the sixth draft? So my guest is here. In a moment, I am going to let you listen to his presentation and his responses to the three questions. Grateful that I have my colleague in here today, former Senator Norman Jean-Baptiste, also a host on Monday show here at 10 to 12, and a community activist, because he continues to play a vital role in enriching our history even more, and in encouraging young people to be more civic-minded and responsible, and appreciating their history and culture. So let me introduce to you former Senator Baptiste. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Vidal, for your kind introduction. I want to say good morning to you, blessings to you, and good morning and blessings to your viewing, your listening audience. I want to also pause to acknowledge the existence of the Creator Most High and to be thankful and to express my gratitude for the gift of life. Um, you asked me, you prefaced my introduction by saying that you would await to hear my presentation. Presentation. Um, I take it for granted that many do know me.
Yes.
Not all persons know what I've been involved with. I
Right.
have been a part of this business community. I actually run four businesses at one point in time. I had a mahogany top in the Range Shopping Center. I had Breakaway Fashions on Company Street down here in Kristenstead. I had Breakaway Kids in Barron Spot across from Strawberry Community. And I co-owned and operated Jam Tech, an electronic store over at Gunter's Village out in the right across from Canigata Ballpark. And then, of course, I've taught in the public schools here for a number of years, approximately some 22 or 23 years at Central High School, and most of the time, and 2 years at Johnny Truxton Junior High School. And of course, as you pointed out, I have served as a senator here in the legislature. I served for a period of 10 years, 5 terms, elected to serve. I believe in service to my people. I attended a secondary school where the motto of that school was that you enter to learn, you depart to serve. And that was clearly displayed so that all students could see it. And so I have this ingrained in me that I have an obligation to serve my fellow human beings. And that's what I'm all about, service to the Most High and to my fellow human beings. The conditions in the world are very fluid right now, in terms of geopolitics, in terms of even what's happening here at home. You spoke about natives and about naturalized citizens and all kinds of people who come to live together in one place under one umbrella, if I may put it that way. I want us to understand that sometimes we don't even know how to navigate that, because right now we have a Haitian American who's moving legislation on the mainland in the Florida legislature that would be disadvantageous to undocumented migrants. And when you consider the history of Haiti and the struggles of the Haitian people and the attempts to get to other places to make life better, and then you have a Haitian American moving such legislation.
Really? I'm surprised.
It's a reason for pause.
Yes, indeed.
We have several persons looking to impact negatively or adversely the status of persons who have been naturalized in America. It's persons who are naturalized citizens are more at risk of being denaturalized today than in times past. There are all kinds of, whether you're looking at your application when you apply to become a citizen, and if you might have submitted fraudulent statements or what have you. They're looking at all kinds of reasons why they can denaturalize folks. Right now, even if you're born in America, it used to be taken for granted that one can have two passports. Right now, they're moving legislation to restrict that so that you can only hold one passport. So even those children of immigrants who came here, got naturalized and had the children here in America, and those children have had belonging rights in the country where the parents were born, and so some of them hold two passports. The movement right now is to restrict those persons from having two passports. You can only have one, not two. So lots of things are happening. But as we look at all of that, we need to look at places. We need to look at time. We need to look at circumstance. When you look at the framing of the United States Constitution, when that was done, there was not a single woman at the table. It was all men.
Right.
Times have changed. Today we're looking to frame a constitution for the United States Virgin Islands, and we have females on the table, we have males on the table, and I think we have at least one continental-born person at the table. So we have to look at all of these things, and we have to be guided by wisdom when we look to move initiatives to benefit our people. The ancient Israelites were given express commands from the Creator that when they crafted the laws, they should have one law that is applied to the foreigner as well as to the citizen or the native born resident. We need to look at these things. We need to consider people like Alexander Hamilton,
Right.
who served as a member of the committee, delegation committee from New York when the United States Constitution was being drafted. And he was not born in the United States of America. I think he was from one of the neighboring Caribbean islands, unless I am mistaken in my recall of history. So I say we need to look at all of these things. And my hope is that as the people of the Virgin Islands have a right to craft, to draft the document that will lead the people of the Virgin Islands. However, as steps taken towards achieving that goal, I would hope that people give consideration to some of what I've said. The present day circumstances, the time we're living in, what has caused people to converge in this place we call the Virgin Islands to live together as one. And that any laws we move would take all of these things into consideration and not take any steps to disenfranchise persons.
Right.
And so, in a nutshell, that's some of what I have to say relative to these matters. I want to comment on one other thing. The Shanti project, as you put it. First of all, I would like for us to abandon some terms that we use because of how they have been misused and misapplied. We speak of shanties, we speak of shanty towns, and you know, the word shanty has gotten sort of like not appropriate connotation, if I may, not denotation but connotation. And so maybe we need to look at them as perhaps some transportation terminals, bus terminals, change the name a bit, and we must learn to appreciate the things that we have and teach others to appreciate the things that we have. The way how people have treated those bus terminals, I call them bus terminals, it's not appreciated as far as I'm concerned. We need to teach our people to take care of these things, to appreciate them. And we need to, when we name places, buildings, streets after people, we need to consider that's a serious initiative and continue to honor and respect those persons in the right way.
I agree.
When we look at the Madeleine Christian Junior High School over in Princess Aaron St. Croix, when we look at the Alexander Henderson School over in Felix and Charles H., those educators today have no honor as far as those buildings are concerned. And so we ought to change course, if I may use that expression, when we consider naming places, buildings, and other things, you know, after people under the pretext, if I may, of honoring them.
Well, I think not only you name them, they should be under guardianship, meaning there should be organizations, school groups that adopt each and maintain it and beautify. And so we need to revive the anti-beautification, anti-litter beautification initiative program. We need to encourage our young people to develop more pride in their homeland, like they say in the Bible. I know you know a lot about the Bible. What it means when it's a prophet is not honoring his own land.
It simply means that very often your own people are the ones who fail to recognize you, who do not appreciate your contributions. Bottom line, that's what it's all about.
Well, so that's what I mean. By guardianship, do more than just name it, like we see. You mentioned about the new Elena Christian, which was supposed to replace the old one, but now the old one is looking better than the new one. It's abandoned, and I don't know what's the plan
Mhm.
for that. Now it's just
Well,
neglected and disgusting looking. It's
here
an
is
eyesore.
here is the reality. For people like me, I've been here from the early 70s. I first came to the Virgin Islands in 1972. The Virgin Islands that I knew then
Mhm.
and the Virgin Islands that I know today, two different pictures, if I
Mhm.
may. Somehow people had a different set of attitudes. I'm not condemning the change in approaches to life, but we had attitudes that better serve our interests here in the Virgin Islands. The way how government officials went about serving
Mhm.
their constituents.
Right.
Infrastructure was better maintained. We had you just spoke about the anti-daytime beautification laws on the books. They still are there on the law, on the books. It's not that those things were repealed.
Mhm.
We still have a law which designates the anti-daytime beautification fund.
Mhm.
The question is, are those monies being converted into that fund? And if that's the case, that it's being converted, how is the money being used today?
Right.
You know, so I think in a sense we need to reevaluate the manner in which public elected public officials serve their constituents. Somehow we have lost track of the goal of public service, what it really means. And so we need a kind of reorientation
Mhm.
as far as public service is concerned. And that reorientation is for those who are elected as well as those who are represented.
Mhm.
So we certainly need to do that. Public service is not about enriching oneself.
It shouldn't be.
Public
Mhm.
service should be about rendering service that benefits your entire community, not some, but all. The attempt should be to address the needs of all in the community and not just some. And certainly it seems that we have lost that vision. So we need to get back to basics to see how we can better serve our people. If we do that, I'm certain that we can have a thriving, beautiful Virgin Islands.
Well, I know it's controversial what the governor has done to hire a media production
Hmm.
to create a document of his public service.
Hmm.
I listened to him, and he said he wanted to inspire young people that they too can become governor of the Virgin Islands
Hmm.
from humble beginnings.
Hmm.
And it appears to me he's proud of his Virgin Islands heritage,
Hmm.
culture, and history,
Hmm.
and he wants to memorialize that, not just to promote his personal life,
Hmm.
but also a history of public service.
Hmm.
That's my understanding. Of course, not everybody agrees with that,
Hmm.
but that's the same concept that I have
Hmm.
with naming the Shanties. For now,
Hmm.
I'm calling Shanti Project. We could revisit whether they should be named Shanties or whatever.
Hmm.
But I know we are coming up on that time, so I um I agree we should really raise the awareness
Hmm.
of Virgin Islands Pride and anti-litter and beautification campaign,
Hmm.
and all of us in this boat together, whether you're a public official or not,
Hmm.
because it reflects on all of us when visitors come. It's a shame
Hmm.
to look. I'm embarrassed when I'm walking and I'm looking at all the litter, and there's no need to be blaming any party. I don't know who's doing it.
Well,
Okay.
if I may just interject here, I have a number of reservations about that initiative that the governor is moving forward with.
Mm-hmm.
Here is my thing. What can we do? In what ways can we instill in young Virgin Islanders a sense of Virgin Islands pride?
Mm-hmm.
To be proud of the place where they were born, where they were raised,
Mm-hmm.
and to want to have a continued connection to this place. When with that initiative that the governor is proposing,
Mm-hmm.
have they outlined the stated goals and objectives and how that initiative is going to meet such an objective to inspire young Virgin Islanders to be proud of the place where they came from and to want to rise to a position of leadership where they can make maximum contribution to the place from which they came? Unless I can see these things outlined, I cannot support such an initiative.
Well, perhaps he's going to mention something about it in his State of the Territory address, which is on the 26th. I hope he will touch on that because that has been one of the most controversial aspects of his governance. Let's put it that way.
But Vidal, for the past 10 years, on average, we've been having approximately 30 murders plus in the territory, taking the lives of young men in particular. That should be something that we give some positive energy to in terms of trying to stop that trade.
Well,
You know,
I am saying,
we're not doing enough in that regard.
like Mario Mohed, he believes that if our children appreciate the history and know their history, that could enhance Virgin Islands pride and perhaps will have a positive influence. And they say, you know what, we're doing this ourselves. We're destroying ourselves.
Right.
You know, and
there has been resistance to that. And the administration has not helped.
I'm not sure I would say resistance. There's been some, in my opinion, inconsistency with how we implement the teaching of Virgin Islands history. I have not met anyone who said, no, it should not happen. I think it's just a disagreement with the approach.
But with all those
and that's why I came up with the Shanti project, because it will be at each location you get in a piece of history.
I commend you for that. I think, the initiative is good.
Right.
I'm just simply saying, and when that apart, because I embrace that wholeheartedly. As I told you, let's appreciate the things that we have. If we're going to do it, let's make sure we take care of those shanties. We keep them in the best of shape.
It has to be a collective force. Like I've heard, when you go into legislature, there are 3 C's that should be applied. I don't know if I say anything. Collaboration.
It is
cooperation. What is
consultation, cooperation, and collaboration.
Okay.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something. Senators need to learn to listen first. Hear what your constituents have to say. What are their concerns? And then you act in accordance with those concerns that have been expressed to you. And that's something that we fail to do. Too often, senators feel that they know it all. They've got it all on the wraps. And they don't care to listen to anyone else.
Well, it's up to us. We put them in, we can take them out. It's what we know as representative democracy. And it's our choice who we wish to put in, and we have to respect the will of the majority. Let me bring you.
And that aside, let's make sure we encourage people to be as involved as possible.
Definitely.
And to be informed of what's going on and what the process entails. That's how we're going to accomplish these goals that we talk about.
Okay, so before we close out, I want you to touch on this. What amendments would you like to see to the revised Organic Act of 1954?
The revised Organic Act of 1954, as far as I'm concerned, right now we have a process which is ongoing in terms of developing a constitution for the territory. I would defer to those people at the table in that exercise, and I would hope that they'll take into consideration some of the things I've mentioned today in terms of circumstance, time, place, etc. and that they would act judiciously to have a document that comports to the mutual benefit of all persons who reside in
Right.
the territory. So that I'm not focusing, we have for the time being, it's our de facto constitution.
Right.
And I'm not looking at amendments to that, because I am hoping that this initiative, which is currently underway, will be successful, so that we will have a document generated from those folks who comprise the present delegation, and that it would be something that reflects the general concerns and wishes of the majority of the people who live.
Well, you mentioned about consultation. I hope those 15 delegates are consulting with the people, because they can decide for me what change I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
I have some ideas, but it's not me alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I say, it's a representative democracy.
Mm-hmm.
You have to represent the will of the majority.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
If the majority of people, the electorate, I should specifically say, because those who just going to criticize and complain
Mm-hmm.
and don't participate in the process,
Mm-hmm.
we who go vote will do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
We'll make the changes for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I am saying, whatever changes or amendment or revision to the revised organic act takes place,
Mm-hmm.
must be from the consent of the people.
Mm-hmm.
You 15 people can decide, look, for example, we are going to put in there, you have to be a native Virgin Island to run for governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands.
That's the reason why I speak of wisdom. That's the reason why I speak about acknowledging circumstance, time, and place. Puerto Rico does not require a native born to be the governor. None of the states in the Union, referred to as the United States of America, has such a requirement. And why should you take away from someone
The naturalized
an existing right or privilege? And so as it stands right now, even under the revised Organic Act, naturalized citizens have an option to run for any political office here in the territory. And why should you, in your wisdom or lack of wisdom, decide to take that away from them? I disagree with that. And so that's one thing I would like to see retained, kept in the new document that will be crafted by those at the table at this present point in time.
Right. I think there's a section there about culture and history. Also, I see a lot of things I would like to be changed. I don't want us to continue to be governed by a de facto constitution.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it should come through amendments
Mm-hmm.
that the people vote on. And see, that's where my views differ from a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I endorse the idea of my mentor, Dr. Malik Siku.
Mm-hmm.
Siku. We said, and there was a referendum, we were like the Sixth Constitutional Convention to adopt the revised Organic Act
Mm-hmm.
of 1954, parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because once it's sent to Congress
Mm-hmm.
and it's approved by Congress,
Mm-hmm.
then it can come back and then through amendments
Mm-hmm. Changes can be
by the people,
right.
not by 15 delegates,
Mm-hmm.
through amendment by the people,
Mm-hmm.
we could get the changes that we desire.
Mm-hmm.
We could have something, a living document like the US Constitution
Mm-hmm.
that reflect the current mentality
Mm-hmm.
and status of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And it can always be amended. The US Constitution has, what, 27 amendments?
I think so. I think about 27.
I think it's 27.
Either 27 or
When the
28.
US Constitution was first drafted, and do you know it only took 4 months? 4 months
Mm-hmm.
to draft the US Constitution. It began May 25th
Mm-hmm.
in 1787. 1787,
Mm-hmm.
and the convention ended on September 1787. About 4 months to draft the U.S. Constitution.
Mhm.
And of course, then only men, white men, were considered citizens of the United States.
Mhm.
White women weren't even citizens that had the same voting
Mhm.
rights
Mhm.
and privileges. Properties, um, the enslaved and the Indians were not considered citizens.
Mhm. Not even considered a full man.
Exactly. And it's there. It has never changed. It's the language is there. The original language is there.
Mhm.
But the 14th Amendment and other amendments have nullified what was put originally in there.
Mhm.
So we have an opportunity, we the people of the U.S. Virgin Islands, to make history, and for the first time, ratify a constitution for the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Mhm.
Like Dr. Malisi would always ask. If not now, when?
Mhm.
Never worry. In the next century.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I am wishing the best. Thanks for being here. Once again, this topic is I'm very passionate about
Yeah.
culture, history, and heritage.
It's a
And
pleasure joining you this morning. And let me just say that I also have a radio program on Friday evenings.
oh, definitely, you
Young
must
people,
mention that.
7 to 8:30. And of course, maybe we can invite you over one of these days so we can.
I want to
Yeah, all right.
explore this
Let me
thing
see.
about this
Let me see how we can do that. So
Shanti project.
Yeah.
And I
Not
hope
just
the
the Shanti
powers to
project,
be.
even the
Yeah, no, that's overall just
constitutional.
how we could get
Yeah.
our people to be more engaged
All right.
and know and shape our destiny and not let it be influenced mostly by the U.S. Congress.
Right.
So because we are going to be governed by the Revised Organic Act of 1954 until or when we get our own constitution. Thanks for listening.
And again,
Thanks for being
having
here.
me. Thanks for having me.
Live, listen, learn, love, and levitate.
All righty. I'm sorry.